In 2013, a small village suddenly disappeared from the map because the land released poison. In Europe, there exists a place where houses still stand, doors are still locked, and beds are still made. But the people are gone. No war destroyed it. No flood washed it away. No earthquake shook it to dust. Within just 6 years, more than 90% of the population is silently vanished. At first, locals called it migration. Cancer cases were rising. Children were getting sick. Animals were avoiding certain homes. Journalists called it the village that chose to die. The village was located in southern Europe in Italy. For decades, life here was ordinary and peaceful. Families lived here for generations. People farmed the land. Children walked to school. But around the early 2000s, something changed. Young people began leaving, not for jobs, but for their health. Elderly residents started dying earlier than expected. Doctors noticed strange patterns, but they couldn't find a cause. By 2010, 1 out of every 3 families had already left. The school closed. By 2015, more than 90% of the homes were empty. Journalists later named it the village that chose to die. But villages don't choose death. Something forces it. Government teams arrived to investigate. They tested everything they knew how to test. Drinking water was clean. Soil samples showed nothing dangerous. Air quality was within safe limits. Food had no contamination. There were no factories nearby, no industrial waste, no chemical plants. Officials finally declared that there was no environmental threat and closed the case. But the people kept leaving. Those who stayed complained of constant exhaustion, headaches, breathing problems, anxiety, and disturbed sleep. One elderly resident said that at night it felt like the walls were heavy, like the house itself was pressing on his chest. Doctors said it was psychological. But psychology does not empty an entire village. As science failed to provide answers, some villagers believed the land was cursed. Others said ancient graves had been disturbed. A few blamed underground spirits. Property prices collapsed. No one wanted to buy a house there. Even animals behaved strangely. Dogs refused to sleep indoors. Birds avoided rooftops. An environmental physicist named Dr. Roberto Ricci heard about the village and decided to investigate on his own. Instead of testing what could be seen, he focused on what could not. He asked a simple but terrifying question. What if the danger was not above the ground, but beneath it? Dr. Ricci installed underground sensors, not to look for pollution or chemicals, but to measure radiation and gas movement. What he discovered changed everything. Beneath the village ran a natural geological fault line. From this fault, a gas was slowly leaking into the environment. Its name was radon. Radon is colorless, odorless, invisible, and naturally occurring gas, but deadly over long exposure. It rises from underground rock and seeps into buildings. When trapped inside homes, especially at night when doors and windows are closed, it accumulates to dangerous levels. The village had been built directly on top of this fault. The people were not being attacked. They were being slowly poisoned. Suddenly, everything made sense. The rising cancer rates, lung diseases, chronic fatigue, breathing problems at night, all of it pointed to one invisible killer. This was not superstition, it was science. The land itself was releasing poison. Authorities returned, this time with urgency. Homes were demolished. Ventilation systems were installed where possible. New construction laws were enforced. Remaining residents were relocated. But it was already too late. Families were gone. Memories were locked inside empty houses. The village never truly recovered. Today, it stands mostly abandoned, not as a haunted place, but as a warning. This story reveals an uncomfortable truth. Not all dangers are loud. Not all killers are visible. Sometimes the greatest threat is the one we breathe without knowing it exists. The village did not die because people abandoned it. People abandoned it because the land itself was silently asking them to leave.